Michael Russo is in Dallas. I'm Jim Souhan. I'm home in Minneapolis. We are talking on Thursday before the NHL draft, which will be held where Michael is on Friday night. This is our hockey show on the talknorth.com podcast network. You can find all the shows at talknorth.com. Subscribe any way you like. Download the show before you listen. If you could, we would appreciate it. And always, as always, follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod to find all the shows, or go straight to the website. Thanks to Twill in the Edina Galleria, Fixology Repair, Minneapolis, and in the Mall of America, and Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. Michael, where do you want to start? You're the one down there in the nerve center for right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot. Everybody's down here trying to figure out what's going to happen with Erik Karlsson or Temi Panarin, players like that. Max Pacioretty, but obviously I'm focused on what's going to go on with the Wild, and I still think that Paul Fenton is going to make some significant moves in the next couple of days, or leading into free agency. And I will say I think it's going to be whatever he does is probably going to be a very unpopular decision. I am convinced that a couple of days ago he came very close to trading both Niederreiter and Zucker, and the fact that almost happened. And I'll report more about that as I flesh it out today. The fact that he almost was considering Zucker just shows you that he is potentially on the block. And I can tell you what I'm hearing right now. And again, I don't want to say it yet because I'm hoping to double and triple and quadruple source it because it is very sensitive right now. But the trade that I heard that it was going to be for would not have been a good trade in my opinion. And probably the Wild should be happy it didn't happen. So, that's the big thing. I was just talking to a couple people upstairs here in the concierge lounge in Marianne. I kind of threw this out them about Zucker, and they can see it happening. The agents for Zucker are supposed to meet with Fenton today or tomorrow. Same thing with Dumba's agent. I ran into him yesterday, and Dumba's agent, one of them told me that they're meeting this week. And, but it was a little shocking to me that at least the way I understand it, if they haven't really gotten down to the nitty gritty and talking numbers about Zucker, that really that they would even consider moving him at this point.
Wow, you've been all over this stuff, and it's fascinating stuff. Let me ask you this: although we're all getting used to Fenton, and even you don't know him that well yet as in person, what would be the motivation of trading Zucker on what might not be an optimal deal? Is that an indication they think he's peaked? Well,
the one thing I want to flesh out today is I do think that they might have been trying to get a team to take Ennis's contract in it, and so essentially they were getting 2 good players for 2 other players. One that I like, the other that I don't. But we're going to probably create a lot of cap space. I mean, get rid of the entire Ennis 4.6. Get rid of Nito's 5.25, get rid of whatever they were going to pay Zucker, re-sign one of the players they were going to acquire, take on the salary of another player that they were going to acquire, and then but in that they were going to create a lot of cap space that would probably lead to a subsequent move or even free agent move. So it's hard to rip on the trade without knowing what all the other pieces potentially were. But again, to me, the most fascinating part of this is it just tells me that he's willing to do anything at this point, that this isn't just smoke in the air, that we're all throwing every name out there. I mean, the fact that he was willing to take 2 of their best wingers and throw it in a potential trade, I think it says, everything about what he's trying to do here. That's more than a tweak.
This is in the vein of transitioning and trying to win right away, and kind of starting some kind of minor rebuild?
I think so. Although I got to tell you, the people he was going to acquire are nowhere near as good as those 2. So, personally, again, I don't know everything that would have happened in it, but I just feel that it's probably a better thing that I just feel like if you're going to trade a couple, whether it's a Coyle or Niederreiter or Zucker or a Dumba, that they could do better than what they were going to get. And so I think it's better that he didn't do it because I think that he can probably make a better move somewhere else. The thing that he probably can't do is get Ennis gone. And that was probably what was the motivating factor in the deal that I'm hearing.
Right. Anything new on the Dumba front?
No, same thing. He is the guy that I'd be worried about. I think that, it might be dangerous to commit to him long term, and because I think that the number that his agents are going to probably throw at the Wild is going to be a big number. I mean, we're not, they'll start off well over 6 a year, and that to me is concerning for him. But Zucker's the guy that I think that you can probably get on a bargain long term deal. And he's going to be able to skate forever. And again, what my concern is when trading Zook, like I think Nino might be gone. Like I'm hearing his name everywhere. So I've almost resigned myself to that fact. But Zucker, I just feel like this team got slower last year, and to trade one of their thoroughbred skaters, and somebody that's coming off a 33-goal season, and somebody that's so invested into the community, I think would be a mistake. So we'll see. Again, his agents are kind of aware of this fact as well. So we'll see if that, leads to, better negotiations. The scary thing on their part is even if they give the Wild a reasonable contract, because Jason wants to stay in Minnesota, the concern is that, it makes it easier to trade him. Sometimes, you might want to go for the home run, but that also can let you be traded unless you're throwing some no trade clauses in there and things like that. So, again, we got to flesh out a lot of stuff today before I feel comfortable going with this actually in writing and not just on a podcast.
Hey, that's a great thing about podcasts. This is just a conversation.
We can just
delete
it if I'm wrong, right? Brandon,
we can always erase it later if we need to. Absolutely. And you know what? I just don't know why Zucker didn't get a 13-year contract with no trade.
Can't do that one anymore. Hang on for a second. I just got a text from a source line on some other subject. Let me see if it's something.
While Michael is checking on the While Michael is checking on the text, I will thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and also let you know if you'd like to advertise with this show or anywhere across the ever-growing network. You can email me, jsouhan47@gmail.com. Hope to have some news on a live venue soon. And thanks to our current sponsors, including Twill in the Edina Galleria. You back, or should we do a Twill ad?
Yeah. No, the source. What I just got is I do think Trotz might make a decision today, and it's interesting. If that's the case, I wonder if they might be close on Tavares. I just feel like Trotz is going to want to know what Tavares is doing, and Tavares is going to know what Trotz is doing before he decides on the Islanders. So we'll see if that comes into fruition as well. So, by the way, Trotz is not coming to Minnesota. It just drives me crazy. These keep talking heads on radio that throw this crap out there, and then I'm the one that has to deal with the repercussions. But as I've alluded many times, just because two guys were in Nashville together doesn't mean that Trotz is Fenton's guy. And it certainly doesn't mean that Fenton is Trotz's guy. The other dynamic here is that Bruce Boudreau and Barry Trotz have the same agent. And I don't think that Gil Scott behind the scenes is going to sabotage one client to get Barry Trotz here. And I don't think that Craig Leopold is going to pay 2 more years of Boudreau at 2+ plus his 2 consulting years and pay the 5 years at $25 million for Barry Trotz when the Wild aren't even a Stanley Cup contender. There's just certain things that fans should think about if things make sense before, they just believe everything they hear by, some guy that knows nothing on Sirius XM and, that type of stuff.
Yep. And I have another thing along those lines. I do want to thank Twill in the Edina Galleria. I was over there the other day. I won't talk about the really comfortable underwear because it makes Michael blush, and we don't want to see that. Even if it's not broadcast, you'd feel it. You'd feel the heat radiating off his cheeks. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'll just say that I'm wearing a lot of the stuff right now. I spend my own money on it. It's not gifted to me. I buy it because I like it, because it's really well made. It lasts a long time. It's casual. My wife likes it, and she hates the way I used to dress before I started going to Twill. So drop by. She did. So drop by Edina Galleria, check out Scott's stuff. A lot of golf stuff, a lot of casual stuff in the front of the store this time of the year. And I really highly recommend Johnny O and Peter Millar. And he's got some new brands I had never heard of before that he's buddies with. He knows the owners. I would go check out that stuff, as well as I told you, Michael, last week, the garment bag that rolls into a duffel bag, which might change my life.
Hi, I'm Stacy Souhan. I love Twill, Scott Dayton's shop in the Edina Galleria. Twill takes the stress out of shopping by offering updated traditional fashion. I know that if Jim goes in there shopping alone, I will like what he buys, whether it's pajamas, flannel shirts, or suits. I plan to recommend Twill to my daughter when she has to buy wedding party gifts and attire. Twill in the Edina Galleria will bring your fashion game to a championship level.
So, Michael, here's the other thing fans have to be careful about. Blow it up. Blow it up. Well, now you're hearing what kind of deals you might have to make to blow it up. You might end up with really bad deals and a really bad team.
Yeah. As I said, I think you could take a step back. I just think that the Wild could do better. But again, this is, sometimes when you find out 1/10 of a scoop, you don't know all the corresponding moves. And so, it's hard for me to, to me, the story is, if I report this today, is more that he is talking about everybody, like legit, for real. Even guys like Zucker, and if he's talking Zucker, who knows? He could be talking Granlund, he could be talking Spurgeon. Just the fact that he's willing to move, I think, anybody right now, except, obviously the guys that he is probably incapable of moving, and that's Zach, and he's never moving Ryan Suter. Nor would anybody at this point, until they figure out what's going on with his injury, take on that type of contract. So, I think that there's nobody on the team that's probably untouchable right now.
Have you heard anything about Suter's rehab?
I heard that it's going well. He's still, I think weight-wise can't put a lot on it at all probably yet. But I hear that he's ahead of schedule. But again, we have to see what he's going to look like when he gets on the ice. And then the other thing is we got to see is what's he like when he gets on the ice. Is he the same Ryan Suter as old?
Right. No, absolutely. Any interesting draft intrigue now that you're down in Dallas? Anything?
Well,
anything revolving around the draft?
I know that the fans that love the draft and prospects and stuff probably get annoyed the fact that I don't delve deep into it, especially when the Wild pick. Like if the Wild were in the top 5 or 10, I'd be a lot more trying to figure out these guys. But to me, it's shooting fish in a barrel, trying to figure out who the heck the Wild are going to take at 24. So I don't know that. So, from a beat writer point of view, I get excited about the, last night we were at dinner and we were all running around because we thought Pacioretty was about to get traded. That's the fun part of this for me, is hanging out with all my kind of brethren, trying to break stories, running into, last night late last night ran into agents and scouts and coaches, and that's the stuff you like, is kind of, going around the bars and trying to learn things. That's the cool part of this whole thing, is being at the draft, and why all beat writers need to be at the draft, because every who's who, you just never know who you're going to run into. You go up to the concierge lounge today and immediately run into one of Zucker's agents, go into the concierge lounge yesterday and run into Dumba's agent. It's just, this is why you got to be here.
Yeah, well, I remember covering NFL owners and general managers meetings, and those were pretty controlled. But man, when I started covering baseball and started going to winter meetings and GM meetings and owners meetings, they were conventions, and they were conventions with convention-like drinking. And sometimes you got your best reporting done at 2 a.m. when the assistant general manager from the Detroit Tigers had one too many beers and just told you everything that's going on.
Yeah. That's how I used to be when I covered Brian Murray as in Florida. That was a different time. I can count on one finger the amount of drinks I had with Chuck Fletcher in his 9 years as a Wild GM, and this is a guy that started in Florida and knew me for well. But Brian, after a game, if he was pissed, you made sure you were in that bar at some point, because you'd learn everything. He was just talkative. It's a shame that Brent and Chuck, who were the right hand man of Brian, never learned that. They're not that way.
Yeah, and
in terms of
funny,
without,
right,
letting things fly in a bar setting.
Right. Well, it's funny too, because I used to check in with Terry Ryan after games sometime, and at one point he told me, "Listen, I can't talk to you after losses anymore. I might say anything."
Sometimes I once got the greatest text from Chuck Fletcher at like 11:30 at night. We were flying to Phoenix the next morning. He knew I had an early flight. It was like 11:30 or midnight. I get this text from Chuck Fletcher saying, "Hey, did you cover our game tonight?"